Anthropic just released Claude Opus 4.7, and buried in the release notes is one sentence that is quietly going to break the things you built 6 months ago. Now, for the last few months, everyone has been saying Opus 4.6 is the best coding model on the market, and I actually built Adesina.ai using that. Other people have been saying Claude is the model to ship with, Anthropic is winning the agentic race, and all of that was true. But Opus 4.7 just changed something, and it's not what everyone else is telling you. Everyone is going to say it's smarter, it's faster, it's better at coding, but that's lazy. That's the press release version. So in this video, I want to break down what actually changed from Opus 4.6 to Opus 4.7, what actually matters, what saves you time, what costs you money, and what's actually going to break the moment you upgrade. I actually don't think this is just a better coding model. I think something else happened, and that's really what I want to uncover in this video, and I'm going to walk you through all of that. Hi, my name is Stephanie, and in this video I'm going to do a deep dive on Claude Opus 4.7. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, all the good stuff. Let's get started. So let me tell you what's actually changed, because Opus 4.6 was indeed a helpful model. If you wrote a sloppy prompt in Opus 4.6, it would actually fill in the gaps for you. It was so generous. It would actually interpret what you meant and then give you a response. Now, Opus 4.7 is not as generous. Opus 4.7 is more like literalist, and Anthropic themselves said this actually in their release notes. The release notes said prompts written from earlier models can sometimes now produce unexpected results. What does that mean? It means that the prompts you wrote 6 months ago, the autonomous agents you created 6 months ago, the workflows you built, those can now start behaving differently. And most people are not actually going to catch this until something breaks in production. So this is not just a matter of Opus 4.7 being smarter. It's more so that it's a more disciplined model. It's more literal. This is more of a personality change, and then personality changes, they break things. I'll show you actually the type of prompts that actually break in just a second. But first, I want to walk you through what actually shipped in this release. So here are really 4 things that changed in Opus 4.7, and I'm actually going to rank these by how much they would actually affect your day. So the first one is vision. So this is the one that nobody is actually going to headline, but it's actually very huge. Opus 4.7 can now process images up to 2,576 pixels on the long edge. So that's about 3.75 megapixels. That's 3 times what previous Claude models could actually handle. And the receipt on this one is actually wild, because Xbel, which builds autonomous penetration testing, they said Opus 4.7 scored 98.5% on their visual acuity benchmark. Opus 4.6 also scored 54.5. So that's not that's a generational leap. If you've been frustrated that Claude couldn't read a dense screenshot or a complex diagram, that problem has just been solved overnight. Now, the second one has to do with following instructions. So this is the one I just warned you about your old prompts that need to be retuned. Now, I'll talk about more on this one in a minute. Now, the third one has to do with long-running work. So Opus 4.7 changes the file system memory a lot better. It holds context across long runs. And this is the part that actually matters to me, because it's now able to verify its own outputs before reporting back, right? So Claude essentially has stopped being a lot more confidently wrong, and they've started double checking itself before they provide an answer. So that's more so a behavior change, not a capability change. And if you build AI agents, you know how big this is. Now, the fourth one has to do with taste. So this one is harder to benchmark, but it's easier to feel it, because the team at Veo, which actually builds design tools for a living, they said Opus 4.7 is the best model in the world for building dashboards and data-rich interfaces. And they use the word taste, right? They said that the design taste is genuinely surprising. And this is actually coming from a team whose entire job is shipping beautiful interfaces. And that's also why, by the way, Figma and Adobe stocks got nervous this month. Well, a lot of people are saying Figma is going to go down, etc. So before I actually show you exactly what's going to break in your old prompts, I want to first zoom in on the benchmark chart Anthropic just published, because there's a story in that chart that nobody is actually talking about. And so let me throw some light on that one, okay? Nobody's really reading this chart, right? So this is really here a benchmark comparison table, and you can see that the Opus 4.7 column is highlighted. So this chart Anthropic dropped with a release, and everyone is actually going to be looking at this and say 4.7 beats 4.6 almost everywhere, which is true. I mean, it beats it 10 out of 12 benchmarks, but that's the boring read. Here's what I actually see when I look at this chart. First thing, Opus 4.7 is actually worse than 4.6 at one thing, which is agentic search, right? Browse comp went from 83.7% down to 79.3%, right? So you can see that's highlighted in red here, and that's 4-point regression. So if you're building a browsing agent, that's not a rounding error, that's a reason to wait before you upgrade. And Anthropic actually pulled this out. They pulled the chart out themselves, so I actually respect Anthropic for their honesty here, but it's something you need to pay attention to. Now, the second thing is GPT 5.4 still wins 2 benchmarks on this chart, which is agentic search and terminal coding. I know not every cell is a Claude win, so don't let the hype tell you otherwise. Now, the third thing, and I think this is the real flex here. This is quite a flex here. Agentic financial analysis. So Opus 4.7 scored 64.7%. Skilled use on MCP Atlas, and Opus 4.7 scored 77.3%. On both of these, Opus 4.7 is not just competitive, it's like best model on the market because it beats GPT 5.4, it beats Gemini, it even beats Mythos Preview. So these are the 2 benchmarks that map to real enterprise work, which is the agentic finance and the tool orchestration, and Opus 4.7 is the top model. And the fourth thing here is look at the Mythos Preview column, right? You can see that Mythos beats Opus 4.7 by 13 points on the software engineering SWE bench pro, by 10 points on cybersecurity, it beats it by 12 points on terminal bench, and Anthropic is publishing on their own flagship chart a model that is dramatically better than the one they just shipped, and they won't let you use it, right? That's not flex, that's warning, because Mythos is what's coming. Opus 4.7 is what's safe to ship right now. So the real read on this chart is not 4.7 is better. The real read here is 4.7 is the best agentic tool user on the market, and it loses to GPT 5.4 in 2 specific lanes. As you can see, it's regresses in one, and in the public facing shadow of something bigger, Anthropic is still holding back, and that's the actual story here. So I know I've showed you all this, but this is the benchmark that actually matters. Okay, the team at Notion have been building agentic workflows for a while now, and they said that Opus 4.7 is 14% better than 4.6 at fewer tokens with a third of the 2 errors. So that's really not a bad thing at all. And then they also said something even bigger. They said it keeps executing through 2 failures. Here's why that matters if you don't build agents for the living. Every agentic workflow you've ever built has a fragility problem. The agent calls a tool, the tool fails or returns garbage, and the agent gives up or it starts hallucinating a fallback. So that's the loop that keeps agents from being reliable in production. So now Opus 4.7 just broke that loop. It didn't really fix it, it just broke the pattern. So it keeps going, it recovers, it doesn't invent fake data when real data is actually missing. And this is huge because if you build agents, this one sentence here is worth more than every bench score combined. Now, let me talk about what I said earlier, because I promised I'll show you what kind of prompts actually break the hardest, going from 4.6 to 4.7. So here's an example prompt in here. So this exact prompt you see here is supposed to summarize the report. It says, summarize this report, keep it short, include takeaways, action items, and any risk mentioned. Now on Opus 4.6, that prompt gives you a very nice, tidy summary. Claude interprets short as reasonable length. It picks the best takeaways and uses judgment. But then on Opus 4.7, it's not going to paper over your contradiction the way 4.6 did. Now let me talk about another thing regarding the prompts. Your vague prompts were actually working because 4.6 was covering for you. Now 4.7 is not going to, and the fix is boring but important. 3 things. First, it's not going to remove contradiction. So if you say short, it will pick short. If you say comprehensive, it will pick comprehensive. It's not going to pick both. Second, just be very specific about your formats. So don't just say things like summary, right? Say things like 3 bullet points, each one sentence. Now the third one is name your priority. So if something matters more than something else, just say it right away. This is the tax you pay for a more literal model. And honestly, once you retune your prompts, the model does exactly what you ask every single time. So it's worth it actually. Now, one more thing you need to know before you upgrade anything in production, and it's really about tokens, right? And nobody is actually talking about the token part, right? So the pricing didn't necessarily change. It's still $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens. So same as 4.6. But here's the trap, right? Anthropic updated the tokenizer, so the same inputs can actually map up to like 35% more tokens and at a higher effort levels, right? Opus 4.7 actually thinks more, so more output tokens too, which means your cost could drift up even though the per token price actually didn't move, right? So even if it's the same task, and if you decide to use 4.6 and use 4.7, you end up using more tokens than 4.7. So there's 2 things you want to do before you flip this one into production, right? So one, Anthropic added a new effort level called XI, so it sits between high and max. So you start your task on high or X high, not max, because Anthropic specifically recommends this. And if you are on Claude Code, they've actually switched the default to X high right now. Too, there's a new task budget feature in public beta on the API. So this lets you cap how much Claude spends on a single run. So if you're actually doing any agentic work, just turn this one on today. In their own testing, token usage is actually improved across effort levels. I'll trust that, but measure it on your own traffic and not theirs as well. Now, let me talk a bit about what I'll be using Opus 4.7 for. Okay, here is the real talk. 3 places where I've seen the biggest jump in my own work today. First is agentic workflows that used to loop. So if you've had an AI agent that kept getting stuck, it kept retrying, it kept hallucinating when tools failed, just swap that for 4.7 because the 2 error recovery alone is worth the migration. Second, dashboards and internal tools. Honestly, VO is not lying. The design taste is different. If you're building SaaS UI, prototyping dashboards, shipping admin panels, then 4.7 makes choices. Now, third, documentary work, finance analysis, legal review, research synthesis, because Databricks reported 21% fewer errors on document reasoning. So if your job touches dense documents, this is the biggest week you've had in a while. What I'm not using it for yet, anything where I haven't retuned the prompt because I know better. I know that this is a lot more literal than generous. And so I'm not going to be doing that. So here's my final take, right? Opus 4.7, it's not smarter. It's more disciplined. It's more literal. It's more rigorous. And that sounds boring, but it's actually not, because what it means is that the ceiling on what you can actually ship autonomously just went up, but only if your prompts are tight enough to ride that ceiling. If your prompts are sloppy, then 4.7 will expose that. If your prompts are clean, 4.7 will do things 4.6 couldn't touch. And that's the whole story. That's the whole thing about Opus 4.7. If you're using Opus 4.6 right now, let me know. Are you going to be upgrading immediately, or are you sort of going to wait to retune your prompts first? Let me know in the comment section below, and let's keep the conversation going. If you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, as usual, hit the subscribe button. I share all the good stuff. And if you want to be part of a community to stay accountable in your AI journey and you trying to build real leverage with AI, then you can also join my paid membership community. I'm going to leave the link in the comment section below so that you can join as well. But as usual, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you